The name of the piece that I am performing is Innocence and Revision. I've been thinking a lot about innocence. It's kind of becoming a obsession for me lately, and it's like when you turn on the news, I just think of innocence, just with some of the crazy stuff that's going on and how it kind of affects us in the way that we think about the world. So this is Innocence and Revision, and it's the life of Aaron Rushing. Starts with the poem, the beginning of a poem. The poem is called The Hood by Aaron Rushing, May 14th, 2013. Small green grass, smelly dirty trash, big tall red apartments, vicious Rottweilers barking, drug dealers or slangers, blackmail with the bangers, everybody wants to sell, black males killing themselves. Aaron Rushing was a freshman then. Dark skin and cottony dreads that mostly covered his sleepy, steady eyes and sometimes smile. A self-taught virtuoso on the guitar with a quiet rock star way. But that afternoon, I was waiting for him in the stairwell, collecting thoughts, trying to figure out what to say to him about this poem, this worrisome poem he'd written for class. Everybody got a set, rep is set till death, talking about they took your son, well, they can't take what you don't let. Aaron's poem seemed to be a little too worldly, a little too knowing. It celebrated the brotherhood, the strength, the revelry, the belonging, the malice of the streets. All well, Big Mo, Amor de Ray, Latin Kings, gang greeting, social packs, go to Kivo, get some packs, flipping birds, counting stacks, buddy gotta put in work, gotta represent his set, through the colors on his shirt. Never ever lack, gotta always watch your back, stay alert and keep a strap. GDK, BDK, cracking trays all day. Earlier in the year, Aaron wrote an essay about being racially profiled in Walgreens. They thought I was a ticking crime bomb, Aaron wrote. After recounting what happened, he explained that since he was a young black male from a high crime neighborhood, it was only natural for him to be viewed as a suspect. Rage and fear trembled beneath the lines of his story, but he told it in a way that left the possibility of innocence for those who judged him guilty. Dr. King would have been proud of the young man, and that's why his poem was so troubling. I stopped him in the stairwell and told him that the piece was dope, but the rhymes needed tightening, and that more importantly, I wondered what it was actually trying to say. It seemed to want to celebrate the lives of the people it talked about. It seemed to care about them. But it spoke little of the consequences they inflicted on themselves and the people around them. I don't remember Aaron saying much. I could see him there nodding respectfully, arms slack at his sides. I wanted to ask him more about his life, about his poem, but I didn't. I could tell Aaron wasn't going to say much. He never really did. I asked him if he understood what I was saying. He said yes. Then he went to get his guitar and headed to class. They're on the outside looking in, I guess. To them, he's just so stupid. If his brothers wrote this poem, this is how they say they do it. Some weeks later, I was grading the final drafts for a portfolio project. I sighed at Aaron's portfolio. You know, looking on turning in, and you look and you're like, oh man, God. Just one poem of the required 5. Despite being a solid B student, this was going to wreck his grade. Then I read his revision. He ain't grow up in the hood grew up inside of him. It's kind of fun, but after a while, you just get tired, and tired. I was stunned. No longer was it a celebration of street life. The poem soberly described the psychological snares that trapped a young man in the streets. I guess he's married to the streets. He was born a human beast, spitting words over beats. He was born to evade, jumping hurdles, making leaps. Born to the bottom, he aspired to have it all, but moved too fast, and there's a greater chance to fall. Blind to his dreams, he could do nothing but stall. Now, the speaker knows his audience carries the why question to his poem, his experience, along with his preset answers that are already made by bias. But this piece doesn't need the audience to bring why. This piece doesn't need the audience to bring why, because the question already lives at the heart of this poem. Why does the boy get wrapped up in a life that ends in such misery? Why him? The speaker slips in some clues. Born a human beast, born to evade, born on the bottom. A boy with no choice, no agency, no chance. Talking about they took your son, well, they can't take what you don't let. The hood was his first friend, the first friend he met. Say he's gonna cap somebody when it's you, don't get upset. Bullets flying, mama's crying, and it's still his brother dying. The speaker interrupts the parents' grief to chide them about letting the tragedy happen, but doesn't articulate what the parent did or did not do to cause this. The speaker doesn't say. Maybe the speaker doesn't know. Aaron's essay was about misperceived guilt, but his poem was about the inherent guilt of the child, the family. Sad as this is, it really shouldn't be that surprising. It's hard to convince a child that being denied a chance at innocence is not the same as being born guilty. It's hard to convince a child that being denied a chance at innocence is not the same as being born guilty. Someone once told me that innocence is lost when you choose not to question the truth in front of you. Innocence is not simply about purity or youth or ignorance or white kittens. Innocence flourishes when we choose to question the world and ourselves more closely and act accordingly. Ironically, Aaron's revision about the lost innocence of a child ended up revealing his. He realized, probably even before I said anything, that he had not wholly examined his lived experience. So, he went back and allowed us to delve into the sorrowful fraternity of men lost and abandoned, marked for containment and death. In the words of his brothers, in the words of the dead, he just wrote what he heard. Like in this poem he just read. Don't make judgments, don't assume, if you ain't got nothing to prove, that you can fill the same one's shoes. Art leads us to questions that lead us to more questions that lead us to ourselves, our innocence. Our children are questioned, judged, and condemned so often that questioning becomes external, fruitless, and sometimes a damaging process. Why ask questions of yourself when the answers are all the same? Guilty, guilty, guilty. Our children need to know innocence can exist in any present moment, as long as we open ourselves to being led by our questions. They don't stop nightsticks or hollow points, but our questions can unshackle our souls from a world that fears us, a world we fear. That's an awesome power. In Aaron's case, this wasn't enough to save him. On May 19th, 2014, just about a year after he turned in his poem, he was shot and killed in an alley on the south side of Chicago. I don't know what happened the Sunday afternoon he was killed, but I do know his commitment to school and the guitar he loved, the guitar he was so brilliant at, had wavered. He transferred from the Chicago High School for the Arts and was getting closer to the streets. When this sort of thing happens, we talk about how the young person should have known better, which, of course, is a judgment on their intelligence and moral character, and perhaps innocence. But for me, Aaron's poem shows he did know better. I just wonder if he felt better. Did his heart know that he had alternatives? Did his heart know that his destiny wasn't written in tombstones?